Every description of God that I've heard holds God to be all-powerful, very typical, and all good. And I see earthquakes and tornadoes and disease, childhood leukemia, and I see all of this and I say, I do not see evidence of both of those being true simultaneously. If there is a God, the God is either not all-powerful or not all good.
Right, I'm just checking, make sure that we are actually on air. I'm driving this sucker tonight, as I did last week. I'm not very confident. Kicking off episode 30. Yes, we made it to the 30, you little ripper. An atheist and a believer and a pastor walk into a bar, Neil deGrasse Tyson there, maybe putting a little bit of doubt in the minds of believers. Is it possible? We continue to delve into the unknown to try and find something we can all understand and agree on. I've got to tell you, we've made some ground over the last few months. We're getting good at it. G'day and welcome. I'm your host, Peter Rowe, presenting this live podcast on YouTube. Great to have your company on this last day of July 31st, 2024. Can you believe it? July went in of an eye. Just let me check, make sure that my microphone is still
living in the future, Pete. The future.
That's right. It's just gone 8 o'clock, kind of. Australian Western Standard Time, broadcasting from Perth, Western Australia at the moment. You're watching on YouTube and only on YouTube. We were discussing, Rich and I, we still can't get the following option. And I think you figured it out that we're the only ones that can't see the following option. So you, if you haven't followed, please jump on our Facebook page. Do two things if you could. Tell us if the following button is there and it's not showing up on us because we're a part of it. And if it is there, please click on it. When we get to 100, we've got about 35, 40 people following. We will then be able to broadcast like we did before, live on Facebook as well. That would be good. We do need a few more followers so that we can broadcast live on YouTube and Facebook. Tonight, I want to talk about something that I heard the other day about a news story telling us that scientists believe that we're not too far away from marrying robots. Those that are already married like us, that probably excludes us. But if you're not married, stick around. You could have a robotic wife. I guess it stands to reason. I want to go even further than marriage and ask, could, given the right kind of AI development, a robot have a soul? This was put to me today, and I thought that is very interesting. If there's no limit to what AI can create, is that even possible? It is being debated around the world as we speak. Is consciousness the key? Because through consciousness comes self-awareness. Can a machine have self-awareness? Could a robot one day prove or disprove the existence of God or any gods or any spirits? Could, with the right development, robots become sentient beings like us? Wow. Capable of sensing or feeling, conscious of or responsive to the sensations of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, or smelling. Speak. Wow, I reckon it boggles the mind. So let's boggle the minds of the panel tonight. It started out as a full panel and it's reduced somewhat, including Luke Phoenix and Jordan, and hopefully a little bit later, Suresh Rajan at some stage tonight. Welcome, gents.
Hello.
G'day.
Gents, can you imagine, do you, Jason Jordan, take the metallic feeling hand of your beloved CP30 to be your robotic wife?
It is a difficult question. Look, I think the real challenge I have with this is that AI currently is a marketing term. It's not actually AI like we would imagine AI to be. It's just math functions with dynamic weighted values and probabilities. There's no actual cognitive function or problem solving going on. It's a large language model, and it's just basically a giant plagiarism machine. That's what it is at the moment. But there is no doubt that we are making massive progress and very fast progress into creating what we call AGI, artificial general intelligence. And it's when we hit that point that we really need to start asking the question about, is this machine self-aware? Can you imagine, just for a moment, just a little thought experiment. Imagine having a mind, a thinking, self-aware mind that is trapped within a digital construct. You could be in pain, or you might not sense anything at all, but you can't escape from this eternal life that you've suddenly been given. That is the real worry that I have with artificial general intelligence is, are we potentially putting something self-aware in a world of pain and hurt?
Well, yes,
Like
it's a great
sort of
way to
mirror.
kick off, Jason. Your microphone is doing what it did last week. It's kind of buffering and then stopping and then coming back in and stuff. So sometimes we can hear you, sometimes we can't. Strangely, it all sounds the same.
I heard that smooth. I heard all of that.
Really?
Yeah. So that I'm not sure.
Okay, maybe it's my end.
Thank you, Luke.
I got you, mate. I got you.
So,
to me, bro.
So, we want all of our viewers out there to join in tonight, and Greg, being my brother, has already started off. Funny bugger, I just asked Meta AI and it said no. Can it have a soul? Can it be said? Yeah, the computer says no. But everyone else at home, as well as Greg, if you've got any questions, because this is fascinating, absolutely fascinating, for two reasons for me. One is it feels new, even though I know people who have been involved with artificial intelligence for well over a decade to a varying degree, certainly not what we're talking about today. But I downloaded ChatGPT on my phone today. Yes, I know I probably should have one, but I couldn't get it on there for various reasons. And asked the question, is it possible? Asked a couple of questions. Is it possible for artificial intelligence to have to become a sentient being? Is it possible to have a soul, et cetera, et cetera? And all of the questions certainly weren't emphatic. They left a lot of kind of doubt as to don't know, because we're still debating it. But my thought is this, guys, that how can there be an end? How can it get to the stage where something just cannot be synthesized or recreated or developed into? Do you know what I mean? It's like the universe, that you can't find the end of it. It may not ever happen. Luke, what do you reckon? It's pretty scary stuff, some of it.
I think I love the topic tonight. I think it's these are really important discussions to be had. I think we have a right to be concerned about the potentials of where it could go for all sorts of things. And I want to preface this with the disclaimer that we don't really know. You know, I've got an opinion on it, an opinion, as we all do, but none of us really. Yeah, we're playing with something that we don't fully understand, I think. So it probably could go a long way. But I think, and we'll go into it a bit further, no doubt, and be able to flesh it out. But I don't think cognition is something that we need to be concerned about, which I'm happy to elaborate on. But that doesn't mean there's no cause for concern. I believe the way that it operates, the parameters that AI works in, the rapid rate that it is learning. We put pretty, these experts will put estimates on saying, we think it's going to learn to do this thing in the next 3 years, and then in 3 months' time, it's done it, and they're going, we were pretty bullish about the estimates we put on that, and it's just so that's pretty unnerving when you've got the experts that are sort of saying it's not acting the way that it should be. But the power that it wields, I think, is pretty powerful. So even if it is operating within its code, within parameters, within all that sort of stuff, it can certainly have an impact, either positive or negative. But the idea of what self-aware is a whole nother conversation. What does that mean? What does that look like? And also, I think from a philosophical point of view, we're pretty captivated by AI because it looks like us. We created it's made in the image of its God, its maker, which is us. We created it, and it's eerie. It's like looking at your reflection and your reflection doing something, and you kind of go, I know that's my reflection. I know it's not real, but geez, it's moving like this.
Hey,
eerie.
Luke, you talk about reflections. Did you know that other than humans, there's only 3 creatures that recognize their own reflection? Elephants, dolphins, and bonobos. Chimpanzees and great apes, they don't even recognize their own reflection. Bears,
Is that right?
great brown bears, just those animals. It shows you how unique the ability to recognize oneself is within the animal kingdom.
Huge.
Wow.
Yeah, massive. That's really
That-
interesting because they're very intelligent
that is
animals,
really-
what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
Dolphins and certainly the ape that you mentioned. Was it?
Bonobo.
Yeah, they
I
are
look like
very,
a
very
chimpanzee.
Yeah. They're often mistaken. That's really interesting. What I find fascinating about this journey that we've embarked on, whether we were asked whether we wanted to or not, it has nothing to do with us, is that every single person who's been online in some way, shape, or form, I'm assuming, has contributed to the information that is now stored for people to develop artificial intelligence. Had we said nothing, had we had no internet, obviously this had no way to form, I would have thought. So what scares me about that is that it takes everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and stores it all, and then regurgitates it in the form of artificial intelligence, which, as Jason said, is just purely plagiarism. It's actually not artificial intelligence at all. It is simply artificial copying. It has no
But
intelligence.
is that what we do? Is that just what we do, Pete? Because I mean,
we have the choice not to, though, whereas it doesn't seem to.
True, but I mean, the main thing is we still don't know how consciousness actually emerges in the human brain in the first place. We understand to a level how the human brain works, but we've got no idea where consciousness is hiding in our brains physically. I mean, they've actually tried cutting the bit that joins the 2 halves of our brains together, and that's made no difference. They've actually, in some instances, removed one hemisphere of a person's brain, yet they're still alive, still have a personality, they still exist as themselves. If we were to emulate our entire brain in a computer down to the tiniest detail, and the computer, of course, is able to speak and respond and process info like a normal human, we still wouldn't have any idea whether or not that computer's conscious or capable of actually having experiences. So the big question I've always had, and this is a subject that I'm fascinated by as well, is what is the difference between a living brain and a dead brain? Like, does it weigh any differently? Has it got any different biological aspect to it? That moment when it goes from being alive to being dead, what is the difference physically within that brain? And I think the day that we can answer that is the day that we'll understand what we conventionally think about as a soul.
But and even if there isn't a difference physically, I mean, we've all heard of the experiments of weighing the body, and like it does weigh different after death and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know where all that landed, but whether there is a physical difference or not, what's absolutely incontrovertible is the fact that there's a difference between a brain that's conscious and a brain that is brain dead or that is.
And why
dead.
can't we kickstart it? Why can't we restart that thing? What are we missing?
I think what you've just touched on is hugely important. And in kind of thinking through what this topic was tonight, I think it's really important. Like this is some of the stuff that I was wrestling with earlier on, thinking, well, we need to assess our understanding of consciousness, right? So if we're worried about what if this thing becomes conscious, which is effectively what we're talking about. If it gets a soul, if it becomes self-aware, what we're talking about is it attains the ability to become human in a sense, right? Albeit in a digital form. But that is on the assumption that the way consciousness is attained is at the end of, so you've got data, input, code, all this sort of stuff, and then it reaches a level where all of a sudden it has the right ingredients to form consciousness, right? But that's not how our brains work. Now, that is a theory. It's called functionalism. There is a theory that the way humans developed consciousness was we were evolving and we had stimuli and input that were coming into the brain, and then eventually we slowly developed like a really primal, basic kind of form of language. And then as our needs developed and as our function of survival and being in the world increased and the needs got more complex, then the language got more complex, and then our brains created like a consciousness, like a sense of self, in order to basically link it all up together, right? So it's kind of the thing that came last, but that's not that's not what happened. We try to, in that theory, we're trying to figure that out, and they're looking at languages but that's not how language works. That's not how the brain works. They can't make that fit because language only exists in its whole sphere. There is no such thing as a primitive language that then evolves. It's all or nothing, and that's always the case in every language that we've ever known. And
but
this
are
is
we
the
making
thing.
it out more than what it? Are we making it out to be more than what it is, Luke? I mean, we look at cultural things, we look at the behavior of animals. Are we ascribing our intelligence and our self-awareness to be more important than what it actually is? Is it just another emergent property of evolution? Is it simply just another characteristic or another behavior of a species that is evolving and adapting to its environment? We're calling it intelligence, we're calling it self-awareness, but is it just a behavior that's like any other behavior that we see in the animal kingdom, but we're ascribing a special thing to it because we think we're super smart?
I mean, that's certainly that's a field of thought. That's part of the discussion. Is that's what's happened? Are we simply a product of evolution? And I'm an advocate for evolution. Shock horror, a Christian who also believes in evolutions. You wouldn't read about it.
There's a couple of you around. All right.
Apparently, yeah. Just don't tell the schools of my kids. But but then also we look at and we go, okay, yeah, there's some stuff that's obvious, fight or flight and things like that you go, yep, clearly an evolutionary thing that has developed and has kept us alive, right? But then there's a whole bunch of stuff that you go, we don't know what this is for. Like being drawn to create art. It's like that serves no... And we can try and make it fit sometimes and go, well, when you're bored in a cave, it's good for community morale to look at, and you go, oh, yeah, you can kind of wedge it in this box, but there's something about this creative spark or this thing that's in us, or the counterintuitive stuff, like feeling that we want to run into a burning building to rescue your neighbor,
Yep.
Like that's goes against every single survival evolutionary instinct that there is, and yet it would feel wrong not to do it, and it feels right to do. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there. Safe to say we haven't landed on anything, but I think what I was saying with it all is it's important for us to understand, because if we have it backwards, and if actually we start with consciousness, we start with this idea of there's something in us, the soul, who we are, and then everything else kind of expands from that. Well, with AI, it starts with code. It's just code. The meaning of the code, it's not in the code. It's not in the computer. It's in the programmer who wrote the code, or it's in the user who's accessing that program. Do you know what I mean? And interpreting the result of that code. But that's the meaning only exists on those two things. The meaning is only outside of it.
Between believers and I guess non-believers is that you have a belief, I guess, I'm assuming that
yes.
There is a directive behind this code, and I'm thinking of it as an emergent property. Whether or not we can meet up at some point and say, well, is that something that we've got in common or not? Because my big question is, from my perspective as an atheist, is if this is purely about the DNA, the neurons, the electrical impulses, the chemical responses. Does that mean that if we had a sufficiently complex computer, that we could emulate that we could copy that we could take a photocopy of a person's brain or mind and create a 100% clone? And if we could, is that alive? Is that conscious? Is that self-aware? What is the difference, again, between that 100% facsimile and a real person? What is alive and what is not? What is the definition of that? That's the bit that I struggle with.
Totally.
I can see a time where that would be very much a real discussion and a real possibility. And just before you go and look, I just wanted to jump in and just say the thing about, and this is very much a connection with faith and belief in God, and things that can't be seen, whether it's believing in ghosts or astrology or whatever. How do you get to the point where you can somehow identify the tangibility, if that's a word, of consciousness? How can you get to the point where you say we want to replicate consciousness and somehow insert it into another intelligence? That to me is the absolute seemingly impossible thing to be able to achieve, because consciousness we can't see it. We don't know what it looks like. We believe it's there without any proof whatsoever that there's even such a thing. And with that goes the soul. The soul is so different. People talk about dogs having a soul. Is it the same kind of soul that human beings have? Can you identify? What does it look like? What does it do? What's its purpose? Try somehow explaining that to someone to put into an artificial intelligence, and until it gets to the point that you mentioned before, Jace, where it actually becomes more than just putting in ones and zeros and codes to make it becomes bigger than that. I mean, we're so far away from the things that we're talking about, but with the progress and the ridiculous amount of speed in which this is traveling, it could be no time coming up with answers to those crazy questions.
Let's step one step back, Pete. Let's not talk about the complexity of the soul for a moment. Let's assume that we've got the fastest, most powerful computer that we've ever created. It's a brilliant, amazing computer, super, super quick. Imagine writing a program that simulates fire, and it's accurate down to the atoms. Yeah. Is it a real fire? Can you generate heat from it, or do you just calculate how much heat it would generate if it was real? Again, this simulation is a sum of calculations. You can theoretically do all the calculations and run the same simulation with pen and paper, but you've got a computer now.
Yeah.
Is it fire? It's clearly not fire as far as we're all concerned. So even not going as far as the soul, if we can simulate fire, is it fire? No, it's not.
No. I mean, look, in my mind, and remembering one of the other things we must remember as we put all this together and try and tear it apart and somehow put it back to some sort of understanding, is that the percentage of the brain, our brain that we use, is like minuscule compared to the capabilities of what a brain can actually be. I doubt whether any human being has ever lived. Hey,
I said, speak for yourself.
But has any human being ever worked their brain to the maximum capability or power that it is? I don't know. I doubt it, considering how much we use. And then there's so many different. Oh my God! No matter where you turn it, it's crazy. So if we can't even use the power of our brain, in spite of how long we've been alive for as human beings, what can we then implement into an artificial brain if not a tiny percentage of that? Does that mean that computer, that AI, can take the small percentage of our brain and find a way to utilize all of it ahead of us because we don't use it? It's anyway.
It's a bit of a miss.
I'll just jump on to Greg when he asked the first question. I just asked Meta AI, and it said no, and that wasn't a joke. I actually asked Meta AI, and it said no. Yes, so did I. Depends on the question. Mine didn't say emphatically no. It was saying it was.
If you click on those comments, they'll come up on the screen, Rowie.
Oh,
You've got the power.
Oh,
look at that.
Oh, so you can see it, but you can see him as well, can't you?
Yeah, but no one else can.
Yeah, I know, but Rich just likes to put up big letters on the screen because he can't see them properly. But so, yeah, I know, Greg, what you said, and he was added another one on. No, we use all our brain, but not all at the same time. Is that real?
Yeah, I've heard that.
True. Yeah,
I've heard that. I've heard that the the old 7%. We only use 7% of our brain. It's a bit of a misnomer. It's still a grey area. We're not really fully sure, but I think the latest research says that we actually do use all of it, but not all of it at the same time. Stuff just activates.
That's what I meant. Yeah, all departments of the brain are used, but not in conjunction with each other to I get,
and not to its full capacity. Which
can I speak to that as well? I mean, I know I talk a lot, but I because I've got a particular interest in this. You guys probably know I've got multiple sclerosis. So multiple sclerosis results in scarring of the brain tissue, which basically kills that section of the brain. So I've had it now for 30 years. And what happens is the multiple sclerosis goes through and creates these scars within my brain. So there are certain sections of my brain that are for specific purposes which are no longer functional. But the brain is what they refer to as plastic. In other words, not plastic in the typical sense of the term, but plastic in so much as areas of the brain can adapt and change. So there are functions that my brain now performs in areas of my brain that it didn't do previously. And that's because that capacity is being taken over by other parts of the brain. But at some point, Pete and Luke, I will run out of excess capacity. And that is the point that I'm not looking forward to, which is when I will start to decline quite rapidly in terms of my neurological capabilities.
Is that a forecast that the specialists are prepared to make or not?
Absolutely, yes, 100%.
Wow.
With MS, they're not. Yeah, they don't know how. It's different for everyone, right? There's speed and when it happens.
Yes. Yep.
So it's like they'll say, "This is what happens," but we can't tell you when or
that's
how
right.
long.
And that's why the neurological world is of an immense fascination to me, because who knows, one day we might discover the solution to MS, but that won't repair the damage that's already been done. So I'm hoping that we reach that point before I get to the point of no return.
The body is amazing, and that reminded me when you said that, Jace, about how your brain has managed to work around that which can't work anymore to kind of fill in the gap, if you like. And the same thing happened to me in the 80s.
Neuroplasticity.
I had a tumor on my vocal cords.
Right.
And I was told I'd never sing again and I'd be lucky to talk again. As it turns out, the specialist was 100% wrong. I ended up with a vocal range 5 times better than what I had before the operation.
Wow. Okay.
So if you're listening, mate, I've been trying to track you down to say, not that you were wrong, but to say thank you, because you're obviously a hell of a lot better at this job than what you thought you were. But there's a section of my vocal cords which doesn't exist. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So over the years, performing live and singing, I've learned to. I can't explain what it is that I've done because my body did it and I wasn't really aware of it, but it manages to somehow skip over and blend in so that no one can actually tell, not even me, that there's that bit of vocal that doesn't work. I don't know how big it is.
Mongolian throat singing.
Sorry?
Mongolian throat singing. Well done.
Yes. Oh, God. Have you tried to reproduce the stuff that they do? It's insane. But anyway, so that's what the body, to digress, is capable of doing. It's actually modifying what you do in order to be able to do it. Now, that's something that human beings can do. And I have no doubt, I have no doubt that artificial intelligence, that name will disappear and it will become something that we're not, in a totally different way. And I can't imagine there being a stopping point. I'm just glad I'm not going to be around for it because I can't see it ending well. I really can't.
You never know.
How can it?
We're making progress in health as well, Pete. You could still be around.
Oh no, well, yeah, well, that's true. I mean, there's so many great things to come from it. But maybe I've watched too many sci-fi movies with Will Smith, with
But if
good
you think
robots.
about it, if AI are going to overthrow us, they're going to need the bodies, right? They're going to need slaves. So it's in their
Like the
interest.
Matrix.
If they're like, look, step one, let's end aging. Let's sort out all of these health issues. Let's just solve all these problems, and then we've got the workforce. So that's the end goal for AI, clearly.
But have you thought about what the problem is with improving the health or improving the longevity of human beings? Have you actually taken that to its end goal and thinking about whether
we saw it with
society,
penicillin?
Yeah,
we saw it with the invention of penicillin.
It's a scary thing, because now what we're finding is that the number one killer of human beings is no longer things like infection or virus or just basic sort of diseases. It's now cancer. And the reason for that, and remember, cancer is not just one thing. Cancer is a raft of like 30 or 40 different types of diseases that are all called cancer. But the reason for that is that we're now living so long that those mutations that happen in our DNA are now having the opportunity, a greater opportunity, to come to fruition. And that's scary in itself, because if we want to live longer as a species, as a life form, cancer is the number one thing that we need to sort out. But I'll ask you now, both of you, Pete, Luke, if you had the opportunity here on Earth to live almost forever, let's just say indefinitely, in reasonable health, would you choose to do it?
Well, the tag at the end, of course, is a very different understanding to say in reasonable health. The answer for me would have to be yes. Some people don't really care. Some people get tired and want to die. I would love to live for as long as I could. And when you get to my age, I remember once I was sitting at a pub and I had a glass of beer, and there was about that much left. And someone said, "Oh, Pete, you know what? This my 50th birthday. You know what? That's how much life you've got left out of that middy you've got in your hand." Yeah. I was not happy. That absolutely
Fess up,
threw
Pete.
me.
How old are you?
And I'm 67.
You just started.
So that was like, I mean, it was
And
really.
what is the average lifespan of a male in Australia?
About 83, I think it is.
Oh, it's that much. Okay, right. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
that's gone. And women are less than that, but it has gone up significantly. Yeah, it's still in the 80s. I can't remember the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it's over 80. Which,
do you feel like you've still got all your faculties, Pete?
Sorry, what's that?
Do you feel like you've still got all your faculties? I know, haha. I sometimes wonder with me, but I don't know if it's the MS or the old age.
Well, look, it's hard to know.
I don't have either, and I wonder about me as well.
That's right. There's so many contributors to moments of forgetfulness, and you go to the fridge and you open up the door and you go, yeah, alcohol does not help. But you open the door and go, what the hell did I come to the fridge for? Now, I say that, and there's not one single person that says that never happens to me. It happens to all of us. The denigration of our brains as we get older, the stress of this modern world that we live in, it all impacts alcohol, all sorts of stuff. By and large, I do have my faculties. By and large, I don't know what it should be at my age. Certainly, my doctor's not concerned about anything. Perfectly normal to sit naked in the middle of the St. George's Terrace, I believe. So I'm happy with that.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, I know. You've been there, mate. I've seen you. But yeah, so yes, in answer to your question, so we can go on to Luke. Yes, I would be happy to live as long as I possibly could. You're never going to live forever, I wouldn't have thought. And the thought of that to my wife absolutely terrifies the hell out of her. She wants no part of it. She's ready to check out now, and she's only 52. So yeah, she's done. I think it's to the guy she's married to. Luke, would you like to live forever?
Not for.
Well, you can't live forever. Let's say 120, 150.
200.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'd be happy for
200.
that. Happy for that. Yeah, with obviously the exit clause, the optional exit clause. If you know, I guess it's different for me. I don't see death as the end. So it'd be a weird thing for me to say I'd hate to live forever when I kind of think that in some, I don't know what that looks like. I know it's not mansions on a paved gold street and that sort of picture of heaven or whatever. But yeah, I think what we are is to go beyond what this is. But I quite like this. I like life. I love life on Earth, and I just so I'd be happy to stick around as long as I could. And
I've
saying
heard
that,
lots
it's
of
pretty
people
easy to
describe
say
life
it now. Hey?
like
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people describe where we are right now as being hell and where we're going as being heaven. So put
Escapism.
put to one side the idea that suicide is a bad thing in the eyes of God. If you truly believe in heaven, Luke, why wouldn't you end it now and go to eternal paradise?
Exactly right. That's and this is the argument against this sort of escapism thinking. This as humans, we're sort of wired to do this, and you see this in a lot of Christian streams. We just get this dichotomy that the world is bad and heaven is good, and so the whole point is just to either wait it out for God to come and fix everything, or to just try and do the best that we can and keep ourselves righteous and sin free until one day we get to go and have the real life out there. But you know, and I won't devolve this into a Bible study, but you don't see any of that in the Bible. That's an interpretation by reading certain bits of the text with that idea already in mind. That's what you're going to come away with. But it's very much about making life on earth heaven.
Correct. Yeah.
That's what it's about. That's the whole thing. What's the point of loving your neighbor on earth if one day you're going to die and then it's just easy because you just love him up in heaven? Like it's like, no, that we've missed the whole point. So that escapist theology, why would you bother try to make the world a better place if
see that's where it works? That's where it works for people like me as an atheist, because I don't think of heaven as being the next step or the eventual direction. I know that I've got to make the best of it now. And so the reason why I love my neighbor and the reason why I love the people around me and want to do the best by them is because I'm hoping that is a karma thing and it will come back to me. I mean, I'm not doing it because of that. I'm hoping for that. And so, you can imagine from my perspective, if I don't think there's anything else, I just want the very best that can happen now because it's all I've got.
And you know what?
Yeah, I think it's quite selfish for people to want to hurry up and check out and get to heaven, because your work, if you're a believer, is to be done on earth, not to disappear to the glory of heaven. You're completely missing the whole message of Jesus. Work your ass off on earth for other people as much as you possibly can, and a part of that reward, if you believe it, may or may not be going to a place better. But if you die and you've done all that, you go, you know what, I don't know where I'm going to go. I'm not 100% sure. I believe I might go here, but I know I've done my work on earth as much as I could possibly do for other people, and I'm happy.
That's exactly it. I mean, Ricky Gervais has a very similar outlook, and I love it. I'm a massive Gervais fan. All the way back to The Office. I know he's a hardcore atheist, but I don't think he's a militant atheist. Like some of the others that he knows what he doesn't believe, and I've got a lot of respect for him. But he says that he just says, because I view my life as this is it, I'm making the most of it, and I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to help people because I won't get another opportunity. Because when I die, that's that. And I just
look
think,
at what he does for animals. Like, he doesn't have to, but his opinions and his attitude towards animals is just amazing.
His advocacy work is second to none. And this is my point. So you can be a very vocal atheist and all that sort of stuff and be doing more work for God than someone who is doing nothing other than maybe evangelizing people at bus stops, but other than that, they're
Ticking
just
boxes.
waiting to get sucked up in the air or
Yeah.
head to heaven, whatever. And you just go, like, who is doing more of the work of God? It's
Well,
this
not
is
even the work of God. I mean, just for the work of earth. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that, but I'm saying, like, from a Christian worldview, whether
Yeah.
it's right or not, from a Christian worldview, being that if Jesus says to love your neighbor and that this is what we're kind of called to do, is to bring heaven on earth. If you remove all of the baggage around needing to say a magic prayer in order to be part of the club that's allowed to then do that, which is all rubbish, and you go, well, actually, maybe there are people all over the world of different faiths or that don't practice any faith at all that are actually doing that in a far greater capacity than many people who profess to follow the one who says to do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I don't think God makes any differentiation there. Well, in fact, I think he does. I think he looks
I've been
on the
watching
atheist and says, that's great. And looks on the one who's waiting to be sucked up into the air and doing nothing and says, that's not so great. You missed the point here. Self-preservation is different.
Am I going to get to heaven and I'm going to shake hands with Pete and I'm going to shake hands with you? Am I going to shake hands with Joel Osteen and Kenneth Copeland? I mean, are these guys that are going to heaven?
I think if heaven is the way that I think it is, then it will be gracious enough to give us the capacity to avoid those people. Maybe they're at a different street. Maybe
Right.
it's like we don't have to.
It's funny, isn't it? How human beings somehow try and visualize heaven being like a modification of life on earth, the houses and the streets and the greenery and the trees and which is an understandable thing. I get it. One of the things I want to say about Ricky Gervais, I've watched him since the very beginning, since he was a DJ in UK radio with Steve
Merchant.
It's
Steve Merchant.
Yes.
And Carl Pilkington.
Oh,
Carl Pilkington.
It's like a freaking orange.
Funny.
He's funny enough as
he
a
is
band
hilarious.
he's funny enough, but he is. But one of the things about Ricky is it seems, and he would, I'm sure, agree with this in the sense that he would never ever imagined that he could have created a platform so that he could sit back in any talkback show or whatever anywhere in the world and talk about the things. Not about his money. He made jokes about his money on stage, and that's absolutely hilarious. But purely about the saying dogs are better than any people he has ever come across in his life. Every dog is, and I was watching Neil deGrasse Tyson today talking about how a day in a human's life is a week in dog's life, and he said, It doesn't matter whether you've gone out the front for 2 seconds, 8 minutes, or a month, or a year, or 10 years. The dog will come back and go mental over you exactly the same way. And dogs are just the most beautiful. And I was
hang on, Robbie, I'm like that with my wife.
If you want to know how much your wife loves you, your dog, lock them both in the boot of your car for half an hour and then come back and open it and see who's happy to see you. That's a general statement, people of the world who are listening. There's a very good.
The big question out of all of this: do dogs go to heaven?
We've done that one already. If there's a
Clearly.
heaven, there's dogs.
Yeah,
where
right.
I was saying earlier, Luke, to Jace before you came on about how our 13-year-old Goldie Mabel is coming to the end. And trying to decide when to actually make the final. So we're making a plan now. And it's just, I can't think of anything more devastating in my life than losing an integral member of your family. People go, it's just a dog. No, it's not. I spend more time with my dog than I ever did with my parents.
People that say that don't have dogs.
Yeah.
They don't understand.
The ability to love. Dogs are the only creatures on the earth, because it doesn't happen to all human beings, but they are the only creatures who love you unconditionally all the time. There's never any kind of, no, I'm not loving you today. I don't like you. For whatever reason, never, ever, ever, ever. She is just the most beautiful, loving, kind, incredible dog. And we know what it's going to do to this family. We know it's going to tear us apart. And it's part
I've
and
seen
parcel. When
dogs.
and as Jay said at the beginning, it's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. I mean, it's true.
And to give a dog the ending that they deserve is it's the
Yeah.
hardest
Oh, yeah.
thing, but the
Yes.
most important. Like it's and again, it's one of those things that until you've had a dog, you don't understand. But
I've
it's
seen dogs owned by absolute dickheads who mistreat them, don't feed them, abuse them,
Oh.
kick them. They just do not treat them like they should treat them, and the dog still comes back for more. I mean, that beggars belief.
Lou obviously works at RSPCA, and that's their whole job, is getting hold of people and trying to get them, away from their dogs. And I've been down there a number of times where they come in and go, "Oh, this dog, look at it," and they're completely and utterly just skin and bones, absolutely the treatment, and they come up to you and lick you and wag their tails and love you. Name a person who would do that. I can't think of any. It is just extraordinary. They've got every right to come up and bite your hand as hard as they bloody can, and they never do. Some of them are obviously have issues because of the way they're being treated. But by and large, 99% of the dogs they get there just want love, in spite of what's happened to them, not fed for months and months and months on end, and they just want to love you. How this fits into artificial intelligence is actually quite interesting, because that's something unique to dogs and people that I'm not sure they could ever actually replicate in an artificial context.
I'm glad you said that, because kind of tying us back into the artificial intelligence thing, and something that you just said, Rowan, something that you said earlier, Jace, about replication. So and this is where we have an ethical gray area, because I'm firmly convinced that I don't believe that there is the capability, because it is just code. There is nothing. There doesn't. It's not the same as humans. As we spoke about, there's an unknown tangibility with humans, an unknown quantity. Now, we can hypothesize that maybe consciousness developed as an evolutionary type thing, but we just don't know. So there is an element within us that we're just like, what is that? This consciousness thing, where did it come from? We do know what's in AI because we coded it, we created it. So we very clearly know what is at least in its base code at the moment, right? We don't know what it will develop, but I'm pretty certain that it cannot then develop a consciousness, like something that has genuine intentionality, that can convey genuine meaning and things like that. It can generate probabilities, possibilities, and do it very cleverly, but the meaning is always outside of the code. It's either on the programmer that put it in, or it's on the end user that is reading what's coming out or interacting with it, right? But just because it cannot develop a consciousness on its own, there is a very clear ethical gray area if we got to the point where we could replicate ourselves, like Jace said, right? So, and do you guys watch Black Mirror? Have you seen the show Black Mirror?
Yeah.
Amazing show. And they did an episode that's eerily similar to what we're talking about, where there is a point in the future where you can download your consciousness into it's like a home assistant, where, and it knows, because it's you that's in there, you know how you like your coffee, you know how you like to get up in the morning.
Time.
Yeah, exactly. But this thing that was just like a download is stuck there forever, and it has the consciousness. So it's an exact replica. So we look at that and we go, if we were able to do something like that, it's not real in the sense that this is not a consciousness or a being that has evolved or developed, or it's not a real thing. It's only a facsimile. It's only an exact copy and replica that has come from the real thing that is outside. But it doesn't know that. And this is that's the whole episode is exploring the ethical implications of that.
Yeah.
Well, just because this thing isn't real, it doesn't know it's not real, and it's doomed to an eternity of that, and it feels and all of this sort of stuff. So, what do we do?
That raises another question, Luke. We talk about real art, right? So, like, say a Van Gogh, and then you've got a master counterfeiter who paints a painting that is so good that only the very best art expert could tell it apart. How is that painting any less magnificent than what the master did? If you can't tell them apart, 99.9% of the population can't tell them apart. What is the difference between those two? Why are they not worth the same? Why are they not deemed to be equally good?
I think for me, it has to be, it's the genesis, right? It's the intentionality of the original that was bought, that came out of nothing. It was a blank canvas. Something happened. The genius of a Van Gogh, of a Da Vinci or a Picasso or whatever, something's happened that we don't fully understand, that we're captivated by, and it has then ended up on this.
So it's not the skill, it's the creativity.
It's not the skill, not necessarily. It requires skill, but no, it's not necessarily the physical thing, because everything can be replicated, like you said. It's the original intentionality of it. It's the genesis of it, to go from nothing to something that imbues it with something, again, that's not tangible, because it's not just the paint, it's not just the way it's laid out on the canvas, because someone that's sufficiently skilled can make a copy, or you can order a print, and hang it in your thing, and
the ultimate judge,
go.
The ultimate judge is joy. If you put a fake and a real painting in front, like the Mona Lisa, fake and real, and sorry, I didn't mean to swear. I'm saying fake and real. And if you judge them, which one, if you could do it, you could do a test, and 99% of people would not be able to tell the difference. So
but we've only ever seen the fake. The three of us, unless you've been to Lou, we've never seen it.
No.
Oh,
and
that's right.
It depends on who you are. And I actually would love to bring Greg in on this if he's still listening, because Greg's an artist and of some repute back in the day. I'd love to know what Greg's thoughts are on this, because he will be talking from an artist's point of view. And the fact that we've only ever seen the fake Mona Lisa, and unless you want to go to the Louvre and see the real, and I have no doubt that the fake will look aesthetically on a computer screen exactly the same. And for those people who have been, and I never have, I reckon if you
probably look at it better detail.
And you look at it, and if it wasn't the original, if it was a good fake in its place, we may be able to tell and look at it going, that's not the Mona Lisa, because it would be too perfect. Whereas the Mona Lisa couldn't be perfect because it's so old and it's been touched up, and it's not even the original per se to what Da Vinci did, of course, because it has been touched up. It's had exposure to light. It's faded. It's I actually
saw the raw edges, Pete. You're saying that it's the raw edges of things that really
the
give them
impurities, the
humanity. It's the humanity in it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what it is.
It should not be perfect. It's so old, and what they had to do to restore it, it's like it's not it's not Da Vinci's anymore, because you fixed it up.
Oh yeah,
do you fix up the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or do you just let it fall over? Do you fix up the Parthenon? Do you these things
our human bodies, we shed our skin. So I think it's something like every 7 years or something like that. We are
completely regenerate.
Are completely regenerated.
Most of our organs, if not all of them, are regenerated over time exactly the same.
That's right.
Unfortunately, they don't necessarily regenerate us back to where they should be.
No. But that
You
begs the
know?
question: is us as a person? Is it our physical? Is it our physical matter? Because that is different to what it was
If
7
it's
years.
7 years later, you're a completely different person.
That's right, and yet you're not. So you know what I mean. So what is it? So it is. It's this. There's something there, and I think it's the same with what we're talking about with art. And it's undeniable that if you do go see some of these bits of art, it's a different feeling. And you don't even have to be an art lover or an expert. You just kind of, you can be captivated by something, or it can trigger something in you, and you're just like, oh. And it is different to seeing it on a screen or seeing a replica, often like a print. There's something about the paint on the canvas. And I know you guys are music lovers, as am I. It's no different to, you can have $800 headphones on and listen to the master recordings of your favorite band doing an album. And that in itself is a beautiful experience. So I encourage everyone to do that.
Yeah.
But it's also not the same as going to see them play live. And there's something about when they're playing live and I don't know, they delay the solo for half a second, or there's a different note that's played, or they, they'll mix up a bit, and you don't go, oh, they've ruined it. It's different. It's that humanity, it's the edges about
Celebrate
it.
the imperfections.
But take it another step further than that, Luke. You've just talked about art, right? What about how we as individuals react to other specific individuals? So, for example, my wife, how I feel about her is very, very different to how you guys feel about her. And obviously, I feel very differently to how you guys feel about your wife or your children, for example. What is it about us that makes that relationship with those people that we feel most strongly about different between all of us? Like, if it was a cookie cutter approach, if it was black and white, like so many things in science are, chemistry, this reacts with that and results in that. And yet we have our own particular prejudices and loves and likes and desires that go well above anything that's predictable.
Correct.
I don't know if this is the point that you're making, but that it made me think of something brilliant off the back of that. Not what I'm saying is brilliant, but what you said in that, talking about artificial intelligence. What makes us unique, Jace, is that we are full of imperfections that are recognized in our partners and either as a frustration or a love or a quirkiness or whatever. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has no room for imperfections. That can't be programmed into.
Oh, but could it be, Pete? Could you build chaos into that?
Of course, but it wouldn't be chaos recognized within the artificial intelligence. It would just be a programmable intolerance or whatever.
Thereby not
real.
Therefore, it's not chaos.
No,
it's therefore
like
organized.
It's organized chaos.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a very good point about how we feel about each other. And to speak. And just let me just jump in quickly before I do that. Actually, just say, look, if you're listening on YouTube tonight, we would love to hear what you have to say. No doubt you've been listening and you probably had some thoughts. Feel free, please jump on. We'd love to hear from people. The only person we've been talking to tonight is Greg, and he seems to have disappeared because I did ask him his opinion about art. But please jump on, ask us a question, make a comment. Be involved. It's really helpful to us on where we're going. If you sort of generate that, if you're happy just to listen to us talk rubbish, we're more than happy to do that. Not a problem at all. I've got first introduced to AI, and I dare say that Jace will have a great story to tell after this because he too has showed me his involvement. A quick story: the HMAS Sydney, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, sunk in 1941, and my uncle was actually part of the 600 and whatever sailors that died and perished on that ship. Long story short, about last year, a play.
I think you've muted yourself, Gary. We lost all that wisdom.
Mate, waving my arms in the air. What did you last hear me say?
you're about to
Hi, I'm
launch
Peter
into it. You prepared us for the wisdom.
Oh,
Yeah, HMAS Sydney. That your uncle was on it.
yes. So
And
look,
a play. There's a
fast
play
forward
coming.
to now. Yes, someone wrote the play. I can't think of her name. Jenny, not is it Jenny Davis? Oh, that's the daughter. Anyway, and the play is featuring my uncle. Out of all the 600 plus people on the ship, they made him the main focus because before he went to go to war, he found out his wife was pregnant, and long story. I won't go into it, but anyway. So we ended up getting invited to this play because my uncle was on there, and it was incredible. But I decided I had this chord run for a song I'd written, and I decided to write a song about the HMAS Sydney going down to my uncle Len, who was on there, and stuff. Uncle Alan, rather. And so I wrote the song, and the lyrics were quite good. And I said to Lou, I'm not overly chuffed with the lyrics. She said, why don't you have a crack at artificial intelligence? I went, really? I didn't know anything about it at all, other than she had ChatGPT on her phone. Put in the details, HMAS Sydney, 1941, Alan Rowe, all the details, bang, 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 hit ding. 10 seconds later, out came these lyrics, which blew me. I cried. They were better than anything I could possibly have ever written. They were beautiful. I cried. I'm going, and then I needed to tweak it. So I said, okay, change this, change that. And ended up with these lyrics. And I rang up the lady who first introduced me to this play. And I said, I want to play you a song. I haven't finished it yet, but I want to. It's a song about the HMAS Sydney. She went, oh my God, I'd love to hear it. And I looked at it. And I think I've spoken to Jace about this before. And I looked at it and I thought, these are not my lyrics. That is not my song. I'd rather have not as good lyrics coming from me. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute, they're just lyrics that have come from all people who have contributed to concepts and ideas about the HMAS Sydney and blah, 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 blah. And it really messed with my brain so much that I just dropped it and I've never played it to her. I don't feel right about it. So it sits in the background somewhere doing nothing. But that's my involvement with artificial intelligence. I've used it since because it's amazing, but there's this quandary. And I know, Jace, you've used them a lot with the radio station you work for with doing jingles, and you played some jingles that AI came up with, and they should be released as pop songs. That's how amazing they were. They're incredible.
Yeah. That said, though, Pete, I mean, it's not entirely the work of the AI. So there is still a creative human input that's required to actually get that output in the first place. So if you just let it do it on its own, it is extremely formulaic, and it's extremely the best way to describe it would be, you know that it's fake. It is obvious that it's fake. It sounds
like ChatGPT.
Imitation, and it's clear, it's obvious. But the moment that you add that creative spark to it, it's almost like standing on the shoulders of giants, because you now have the ability for someone like me who is very musical but has no musical capability whatsoever. I now, through the use of AI, can treat AI as a musical instrument. So I can tell it what I want. I can guide it to give me what I want. And then the output, I would argue, is just as good, if not better, than anything I could have done on my own, even with the appropriate amount of musical training. Now, you've heard the music that we're talking about, Pete, and it, I would argue, is almost chart-topping stuff. But it's
are you able to play anything for us?
Not instantly, but if you give me an opportunity, I will find it and I will be able to do so.
Luke, you will not believe these station IDs. For one is just about the call sign for the station. One is about Jace as a character he's created. And when I first heard, Jace told me about him. Went, mate, I'm a musician. Please don't embarrass yourself. This is going to be crap. And he played 3 or 4 of them. And going, mate, are you serious? These would all be successful commercial songs. Brilliant. Could not believe it. and I could not tell that it wasn't a proper artist. Couldn't tell.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time until there is an AI artist,
Number one,
AI generated song.
Yep.
Whether it's kept under wraps, that's how it's done, or whether it's done out of a corporate boardroom somewhere. And I don't quite know how it's going to happen, but it will happen, and there'll be artists that are using.
Oh, sorry guys.
Oh, here we go.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, who gets the royalties? Yeah, go back.
Hang on, I don't know how to stop it now. Hold on. Hang on, I'll stop it in a sec.
So Jace works on Intelligent Details at Southern FM, which is a radio station down in Albany. So this is a jingle to promote the radio station.
Start again?
Yeah, mate, go.
Here you go.
Driving down the road, sun shining bright, turning on the dial, sparks of delight, tunes that transport, melodies that soothe. Great Southern FM, the station that moves. Gotta sing along, can't help but smile. Songs that make you feel mile after mile, from dawn's first light to the midnight moon. Great Southern FM, they'll have you groove. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
That's crazy.
Remember, this voice is not real.
Wow.
And the tune is not real. It's all AI.
And for those people listening,
there we go. Away.
Crazy.
Anyway,
for those people listening, the sound probably sounded really weird, and you think that the sound distortion and whatever's happening there is to do with the AI. It's not. I've listened to it in my studio on my Mac, and it sounds exactly. I've been in radio for 40 years, so I know what this sounds like, and it sounds brilliant. What we heard then was a distorted kind of wavy, but it's just
because it came through my speakers rather than direct.
Oh, now here's the thing for you, Jace.
Yeah.
What happens if I take that and plagiarize the melody and the chord run and the structure and release a song?
Yeah, good point.
Absolutely. How could you prove who wrote it?
Well, you can't. Let me give you one more example. All right. Now, this is not music. I recently, down here, hosted a quiz night for Great Southern FM. So it was a huge event here in Albany, because obviously it's not a big town. There's 40,000 people. So this ended up being quite a significant event in the Albany community. So we have a character that I have developed that is an AI character. Yes. As far as Great Southern FM is concerned, Clyde, this character, exists. He's a DJ on the station. But Clyde is, of course, an artificial intelligence construct. He doesn't exist. And yet, I was able to call Clyde during the show, during the quiz night, to ask Clyde why he hadn't turned up, because obviously quite a few of the people there wanted to know why Clyde, who is their favorite announcer on Great Southern FM, hadn't turned up to the quiz night. Let me play you a little bit of that conversation. This happened live in front of the entirety of the people who were there for the quiz night. So it starts off with me actually phoning Clyde, and you're going to hear exactly how that conversation went. If I can make it happen. It's coming. Here we go. I'm going to try and play it. I'm showing my my technical prowess here, guys. Because I wasn't prepared for any of this. I didn't know I was going to do any of this, so just bear with me. I've had to delve back through my library to try and find this stuff. All right, here we go. Where is it? There. Right, so I'm going to play the conversation because I happen to record it. So this is me pretending to dial Clyde. Can you hear it okay?
Yeah.
So we're making a joke out of how many numbers I pressed on the dial. That's me calling him on his mobile.
Hello, this is Clyde.
Hey, Clyde, it's Jace.
Jace, we've talked about this. Stop calling me. This is the 19th call today.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought you wanted the opportunity to have a chat to everybody at the quiz night.
Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. I know how disappointed you all are that I couldn't be the champion quiz player tonight. I really would have liked to have been there, but I was told not to come. Kathy, Roz, Bruce, and that buffoon who hosts the Big Night Inn
That's
told
me.
me to stay away because I'm so smart. They said it would be unfair and that I would win all the pretzels and whatever it is on that table over there. Anyway, assuming everyone else turned up, I'll take this opportunity to tick some things off my extensive list.
Does he sound real?
Firstly,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
tell him he left his bathrobe at my place. Hutch, are you finished with my Air Supply Jumbo photo album? Wendy, can you remind me what time tomorrow we are waxing my chest? And finally, Julie, I've had a good think about it. And no, I'm not interested in learning how to make pavlova. I was at first, but I had a look at the recipe you emailed to me, and I'm reasonably confident it shouldn't involve Vegemite or prawns. And before I go, if any of the prizes are chocolate freckles, they're mine. I lost them. Give them back to me. Good luck, everyone.
It does sound a little bit
Surprising
bit
twist
too
that
official.
everyone except the team that scored the highest. Thank you and good night.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
It does. I mean, but it's hard to say that it doesn't sound natural in the sense that like somebody I know, but people sound like that. You can't. It doesn't sound like staccato computer talk, electronic talk, robotic talk. It doesn't sound like that at all. Yeah, it's extraordinary.
It's gone up
You
a
know-
notch.
And this is it.
It has.
Hey,
The new GPT 4.0 is when they released that maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, something like that. It was like it's unbelievable. You can read your kids' bedtime stories and stuff through it, and it sounds it's I can't even explain it, but Google it.
No.
You'll see.
I'll-
It's you're gonna see it.
what's it, the 4.0? I'm using the free
No,
one, which is just
4.0.
base level 4.0. Okay. Yeah, it's and while I think of it, what is the time? 9:30 Australian Western Standard Time. That's okay. We were late, so we can go a little bit over if you guys are up to it. I thought Suresh might have dropped in. While I think of it, as a complete side issue, Luke, I noticed the other day that you have and this is nothing that I'm involved with, nothing that I'm interested in, nothing that I even believe in, but I noticed you've got a Bible study thing, which I had a look at and went through, and it's actually from if you're into understanding from a modern perspective the realities of what Luke considers to be of the Bible. What's it called? Because it shows this last box with a Bible sitting inside it, and it's on YouTube.
I think I call it Unboxing the Bible.
Unboxing the Bible. Just put Unboxing the Bible into YouTube and you'll see it, and you can.
I did start watching. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, so did I. I didn't finish watching, unfortunately. I kept on watching and having listening to it, and then just sat down to myself and just pulled the whole thing apart. It's rubbish. It's not. No, I'm joking. I really enjoyed it. It's beautifully done. It's exactly what I would expect you to do for that in the sense that it's down to earth and it's accurate and it's true. And it's just if you want to learn more about. If you're struggling with the Bible, I can't believe I'm even promoting this. What's wrong with me? Go and check it out on YouTube and check Unboxing the Bible. Is that what it's called? Unboxing the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
Good luck with that, mate.
I
I hope
appreciate
you
that.
get great success with it. Really do.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Can I just go on?
There you go.
I was just going to say one thing. I was just going to mention the fact that AI is already putting guys like me and Pete out of work. And the reason is that I am already here at Great Southern FM getting the AI to do voiceovers because I don't have enough people down here who are capable of doing professional voiceovers. So I am using AI, and this is where I think we're stretching the term AI. It's not really artificial intelligence, right? This is just an artificial voice. But the ability of someone like me or even someone like Pete to actually use our experience and our skills as radio presenters to be able to teach an artificial voice how to do a professional voiceover better than what an amateur radio presenter can do. And so now I would argue maybe 30, 40% of all of the voiceovers, all of the commercials, sponsorships, all of the community service announcements that are happening on Great Southern FM are actually happening because of AI. And it's happening in two ways. Number one, I can do text to speech. So I can type in a script. I can tell it where to do the upward inflections and where to do the various bits of color that we use when we do a voiceover. So the magic words, you know, the words you emphasize, all that kind of stuff. I can teach the voice, the artificial intelligence, how to do that. But perhaps more importantly, and perhaps more scary, is the fact we currently have voiceovers, CSAs, going to air on Great Southern FM that I actually voiced, and then I told the AI to copy it tone for tone, word for word, inflection for inflection, but make it an old man's voice or make it a woman's voice.
And I've heard them.
Precisely that. You can't tell it's me, but I did the voiceover. So now that the AI knows exactly what I did, it's replaced it with the tone of the woman or the tone of the old man, but all of the correct inflections are in place. So it sounds professional, but it's me, but it doesn't sound like me. And that scares me because now we're talking about how much and how accurately we can fake things like things that Joe Biden said, or things that Albany Albanese said, or things that some celebrity said that they didn't actually say, but for anybody, including someone that knows AI, would look at and would go, my God, did they really say that? This is something that we all need to be very aware of going forward because it's changing our world.
And businesses will do whatever they can to save money, and this is a great opportunity to save so much. You could get 5 professional voiceover people that could cost you tens of thousands of dollars to do a whole bunch of stuff, or you can get one guy who's clever at a radio station to do it to next to nothing.
Yeah,
it's not exploitation. I just thought of a great film.
The opposite of that.
You were talking about that. Hey.
It's the opposite of exploitation because you're not actually using a human being.
Yeah, I just thought of a great film script of this guy that keeps doing all these voiceovers, contacts you and wants some payment. He sends you an invoice, and you try to prove that he doesn't exist. And that would be.
But I've already heard guys who are saying that their voice has been essentially fingerprinted. So you might know of a guy. If you're an Australian and you listen to Australian television or radio, there's a particular individual, his nickname is Shorty. He probably has the most Australian voice and does the most voiceovers around Australia. You would recognize his voice. He does the vast majority of all of those kinds of promos.
Yeah.
He is in a position now where his voice, he's done enough of it that they can fingerprint his voice and get artificial intelligence to emulate it, to copy it.
Yep.
It is indistinguishable from his voice. And now as a performer, as someone who derives his livelihood from his ability to do these voiceovers, it's gone. Because anybody can now make his voice say whatever it is that they want to say.
And at the moment, that's not illegal.
It's not.
To sound exactly like doing reading a book in Matthew McConaughey's voice. It's
exactly
not illegal.
It will be.
Sorry?
How though?
It will be. It will have to be. It will have to be.
There will be. Yeah, I don't know how, but there will have to be advances in the law. I mean, for example, even with that model that I was just talking about, the GPT-4o, when they did all the announcements, they used this voice, and you'll see it in all the videos that kind of show it, and it's remarkable. It's literally like talking to someone, and it's this girl's voice, and it sounds like Scarlett Johansson. I don't know if you've seen the movie
Right.
Her with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson, which is a similar thing, right? She does the voice of like the artificial, like Siri, but it's, he falls in love with her because it's so real and lifelike. Anyway, they basically used her voice, and so when all this came out, and it went viral because it was like saying, look how phenomenal this now is, how lifelike this is. It's literally like that movie. But she said, why have you guys used my voice like this? You can't do that. And so,
but do you own the voice? Do you own it?
Change it.
Yeah.
Well, you own yours.
Do you?
And I think especially as an entertainer, it's probably, maybe you got a different thing, but it's just data out there. Like, so your mate that you're talking about, the voiceover guy, the reason they can fingerprint his voice is because it's just data. They have a large available thing of him saying all different stuff. So for politicians, for actors and actresses, all this AI has to do is comb through their body of work, and
there's enough out there.
There's enough out there. It'll get them saying every word in 5-10 different inflections. Do you know what I mean? Every letter. So all of a sudden now it builds this like crazy model. It's trained already. It's quite interesting.
I won't play the whole thing, Pete, because I know that I don't want to dominate this, obviously, but I want to give you an example of where I've done the voiceover and AI has replaced my voice. See if you can work out that this was me talking when I eventually play it.
If you're looking for something to do during the day, why not come and join me here at the station? I'm not the sort to go on air, but I do appreciate the service the volunteers at Great Southern FM provide to the local community. And so I wanted to see how I can help. I figured I've worked in an office all my life, so by getting involved, I could keep active, be a part of a wonderful team, and use my skills to help out.
I've cut it short, but did that sound like me?
That's crazy.
Not at all like you, no. And it sounded like a community radio station volunteer kind of person doing the ad, and it fits in with the whole, It
blows me away.
Going back to talking about how they could end up not policing it, for want of another word. It's no different to me than someone ripping off somebody else's song. A decent percentage of the lyrics or the words, lyrics or the tune, then they've got a fairly good chance of being able to take it to court and have a win over with someone's. This has to be done the same way. If you're sounding exactly like Matthew McConaughey, obviously easy to prove, then you should not be allowed to do that and exploit somebody. You're not exploiting anyone by doing that. You are voicing it yourself. Yes, you should be paid for doing that, but if someone's just doing a voice,
what about the woman whose voice that is, Margaret?
The woman?
Like that voice is obviously a fingerprint of a real person. So that tone, that voice has been layered over the top of my voice.
Oh, well,
but in reality, she is a real person.
Yeah,
but she hasn't done the work.
Yep. Well, she did initially. She did initially, and you've exploited her voice, as it were, without her permission.
But was it with her permission? Has she licensed her voice to the service that I use to do this?
I mean, people
and
have
that's most likely what's happened.
Maybe that's
the thing is,
license your voice.
But the difference would be if you were to use Matthew McConaughey's voice to say,
all right.
Don't listen to anything but Great Southern FM. It's like the difference there is you are leveraging his brand, his reputation, You're putting words in his mouth to say that he likes Great Southern FM, and then people can hear that and go, oh yeah, so the station
It's a
can benefit.
misrepresentation.
Yes, that's right. Whereas that woman, no one's gonna tune in because, oh wow, they know that woman. She should still be compensated, but I would imagine that would be done through, if she licensed her voice through the whatever. But it's a different thing using a celebrity for an endorsement that they're not actually endorsing. And I think, but here's the problem, right? Deep fake has been an issue for a little while. It's only going to get worse as now the technology's gotten even better. But the thing is, we will always typically be able to prove, okay, this is a manipulated soundbite, this is a manipulated video. It might take some time and whatnot, but the problem is the damage can already be done. So if you can release, let's say at the height of an election thing, if you can release a deep fake of Kamala Harris saying or doing something that is going to outrageous, that all of a sudden people see in their social media feeds or whatever, and they form an instant thing, and then it comes out a week later, actually this was doctored. And then then you got the Republicans on the other side saying, yeah, of course they're going to say that. Why did it take a week for them to come? But it's planting a seed of doubt, and that's all it takes. Do you know what I mean? It's like that can derail someone. So it can be fake, but it can do damage.
That worries me more than anything else, right? At this point in time, these tools are now available to everybody. Now, what really worries me is, and I know this is distasteful, but we've got to cover it because this is reality of what's going on. There's a thing called revenge porn. Now, this is where somebody can take somebody's image, their face, and put it on top of some pornography. Now, suddenly, a totally innocent person can be seen to be performing the most outrageous things, and it can be distributed. What's on the internet is there forever. Now, there is no way of validating or determining whether or not that was that person. Imagine if you're out there job hunting and you're going for a job, a high-profile job, and I'm talking about something high-end here. Never mind the people who is just the average run-of-the-mill person, but you're going for a job. They do the little bit of research on you and discover this video. Whether or not that was you, that now blemishes your record. Now, that is horrific, and there is absolutely no way of policing that at the moment.
No.
And they're not likely to have a team of people that can actually discredit the video, and do the tech analysis on it. It's if you're just a random person.
Absolutely. And it's already happened. Websites to do exactly this. There are apps you can download for your iPhone where you actually go, take this photo, place it on that image, make it look real. And I can tell you now, it looks real.
That's terrifying.
It horrifies me.
It's a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm for people who love breaking the law, exploiting other people, forgetting about whether they're innocent people. I've seen a number of people, women, whose lives have been completely and utterly destroyed for that exact reason that they did this to this woman. I can't remember. It was about 3 months ago.
Well, they're doing it to celebrities all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, and they expect it, I guess. But ultimately, when you're talking about an average run-of-the-mill person who has never done anything like this, who would be horrified by this, and suddenly not one, but maybe dozens of images and dozens of videos turn up that all look real, how do you defend against that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm concerned in what I do, which is voiceovers, and I've noticed a dramatic shift in not in credibility, but in the options that are now available. Why would we use you when we can have Matthew McConaughey? Yeah. Because now it's okay. You can do that. You can grab anyone you want, and it has impacted on what I do. Where that goes, I don't know. I need to find a way to be different, it's pretty hard to go against, a ride, cocaine and hookers, my friend, cocaine and hookers. It's
Yeah.
like they can get him saying that. Why are they going to pay me money to say it? At the moment, it's in its infancy, and there are people not prepared to put money together to pay for AI to do that. So I need to kind of go quickly on this and try and cash in on it. But yeah, it's really scary. But it's been fascinating just seeing all of the different goals.
I think one of the
go, mate.
one of the I was going to say just one of the takeaways for me tonight. It's interesting what we were saying earlier around, and I feel the same every time I've mucked around with ChatGPT. There's some stuff I go, this is great. This is helpful. And you go useful, and you go great. But then there are some things that I go, I wouldn't feel right using this. So if there was an acquaintance, like a colleague, and I didn't know them, and you wanted to write them a, happy anniversary card or a good luck at your next job sort of card, and there's no real personal connection there, an acquaintance, give me a very short, heartfelt thing. Great, awesome, and you can take that and you'd write that in, and that's done, right? But I'm not going to use that to write my wife an anniversary card, because it could generate the most beautiful, eloquent thing.
Right.
But
It could still give us some ideas.
Of course, yeah.
Could you imagine that?
And this is the difference. And I think this is why you, like Rowie, you could, if you had a gig to do a jingle, you could use ChatGPT. You wouldn't bat an eyelid at it. You go, yeah, that's awesome. Yep, I might adjust this, and you do it. But then to do something that has a real personal weight and connection to you, like writing the lyrics to that song by H. Mayer Sydney, you go, no, this has to come from me. I don't know where it has to come from. I don't know if it's going to be as polished as this, but I know that it has to come. It's got to be generated from me. And I feel the same. Like, so with the Bible stuff, with the teaching, with any of that, I don't use ChatGPT for any of that. I might use it after I've written something to say, like even run the transcript of the video of the thing that I did and say, generate chapters for me, like summarize the sections that what I've already spoken about, and tell me, so then I can put it into the thing.
Fine.
And it's like, that's helpful, but I would feel, I feel so strongly. Same with like if I was to give a sermon or any of that, I'm like, that's good. That has to come from me, even if it's imperfect.
Yep,
I have. That's it. So I think that wouldn't be just our relationship to ChatGPT, to AI.
You're saying that ChatGPT is soulless.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think.
Well, it is literally without soul. That is true.
Of course. But I do think that. I just think there's that unknown quantity that I want to inject into things that are meaningful to me, and I'm not willing to outsource that.
Is that
it's a reprint of the Mona Lisa?
About meaning. It's about meaning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Authenticity is huge if you're an artist. Whether you're painting, whether you're a radio announcer, whether you're a musician, authenticity is so big, which is why people jump up and down so much when they hear one of their songs being ripped off and being exploited. To which the two most famous ones, of course, were My Sweet Lord from George Harrison to the old Shirelles, Do Lang, Do Lang, Do Lang. I mean, that is just a complete and utter blatant ripoff. And the one that I do struggle with is Down Under from
Men at Work.
Men at Work. The flute, to the point where
Did you know that? Until it was a court case, did you know that?
He killed himself.
Did he?
The flautist for Men at Work, young, I can't think of his name, who played that Kookaburra in the Kookaburra, that thing that was a rip-off of Kookaburra sings and it sits in the old gum tree. He killed himself. He committed suicide because he was so devastated to think that people thought that he'd ripped off Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree. For those listening,
But he may have done. But did you actually know
Yeah.
that was a rip-off until you heard about the court case? Or did you
Oh,
just
God,
enjoy
no.
the song?
No one could possibly, and I still can't
No.
connect the two together. I cannot connect his flute melody to the melody of Kookaburra Sits in the Old Gum Tree. That is the most.
And was it a rip-off or was it an appreciation? Was it an echoing of
Well,
the
that's it,
value?
exactly. Yeah, I
100%.
don't know. I you can't
Which is done
prove.
in songs all the time.
Yeah.
Well, there's
There've
only
been
so
so
many
many of
notes in
them.
the chromatic scale. So, but at some point in time, we're going to run out of variations.
How many
But there's
four-chord
more.
songs are there?
It's like, well, that's right. There's tens of thousands.
Yeah.
There's got to be more. There's got to be an ability to listen to the intent and the difference of the sound and the way it was played, and you'd hear the way he played that melody, and then you'd hear the writings of the Kookaburra. Now, if you had a musician making a decision and not a judge, I would dare say they would have went, no. There is certain similarities with it, but no. But because it was made by someone perhaps unmusical or uneducated in this, if you listen to the two, and I'm going, "Yeah, look, you could, my God, if you have to push it that hard to try and find a connection, then, chances are he'd not do that on purpose. In order for him to come up with that flute line, some part of the rest of the song had to compare to Kookaburra, and it didn't. There was nothing the same. No melody, no chords, no structure, no
It's an
nothing.
echo. It's not a
Correct.
copy. It's an echo of
Yeah,
the feeling that we get as Australians. It's kind of like that was evocative of the
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
as
But even
opposed
if
to a direct copy.
But even if it was, Jace, why didn't they go to them and say, look, that sounds, and well done. Down Under should absolutely reflect an Aussie song like Kookaburra Sits in the Old Gum Tree.
Yeah.
We get it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's almost a salute. Let's just talk about some royalties and we're done and dusted.
Yeah.
But no, they sued the ass off them. The young guy killed himself because of it. What was the point?
Yeah.
We've kind of gone full circle in this whole conversation because, we started off asking the question about whether or not AI can ever have a soul. And really what we're asking about now is authenticity and I guess whether or not copies are as good as the original. And when we look at what AI is, we understand that AI is actually created by analyzing existing content. So much of it has gone through the equivalent of the Google index and has incorporated all of that corpus and has reinterpreted and can present it back to us in different ways, in creative, I would argue, ways, but ways that essentially lack that creative human element. The big question, I think, out of everything that we talked about tonight is what is the difference between what a human does and what we're calling currently AI presents to us? We, I think, have landed on the fact that it's about authenticity, it's about irregularity, and that human organic element.
Yep.
But the big question is to you guys is, can even that be replicated? Yeah, I was the same. Yeah. Big breath in because that's a big question.
I don't think it can. I don't think intentionality, even if we were to wrap that up in a word of, say, intentionality, as in I come to something with the intent, like the genuine intent to create something, right? Not because I've been programmed to, not because I'm trying to achieve a different outcome, but there's a basic intent. I don't think that can be self-generated within it. We can replicate it so that it looks that way. And I think that's why we're captivated so much with AI, because it looks like us. But I don't think we could create
Can it make us better, Luke? Can it make us better? Like, I can't do music, but I was able to use AI to generate some fantastic music.
Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt. It's incredibly useful.
Medicine, all sorts of infrastructure and engineering and God knows. I mean, it would just, the sky's the limit. We'll go to places we never even dreamed of. But yeah, I mean,
Are we agreed that this is something useful that we should continue to use?
both.
Absolutely.
No, I would
You
love
can't-
to see it stop tomorrow, but I would also love to see what it can do. Simply
Yeah.
because mankind has shown that we do not have the ability to corral the things that can be good and release the things that are not. We don't have. History shows us every time we come up with a new, whether it's the Iron Age or whether it was the technological age, whatever you come up with, there's going to be a whole bunch of people out there who are going to exploit the hell out of everything that you do and make it 10 times worse than what it could have been. So, I mean, in a crooked, busted world, I think it is both beautiful and dangerous.
As long as we're in charge of it, as long as we maintain the ability to control it, direct it, and lead it, then I think it's okay. But the moment that we let it get out of hand, there's a risk, an existential risk to humanity itself, I think.
And there's
that
too many
risk,
scary. Go on.
that risk is not extinguished. That risk does not go hand in hand with it becoming self-aware. That's a big thing that I want to say. It doesn't have to become conscious for that risk to be there. Even as it is, the parameters around that we give it that can be quite flexible, the way that it interprets input in order to determine what output it's going to give, all of that sort of stuff can lead it to be self-directive in a sense. It's not actually self-directive. It's not driven by a consciousness, but it can be trying to achieve the means from the parameters that we've given it in a way that we are not expecting it to, and in a way that may be detrimental to us. So there is absolutely a risk. In terms of,
are you talking about AI or Donald Trump? I mean, it sounds very similar.
Two are interchangeable.
Yeah, they are.
Human beings don't normally they have an attitude of, look what we can do this, so let's do it. And you look at something and go, you didn't need to do that. You didn't need that kind of technological thing. It might be a commercial or whatever. And you go, man, you just really stuffed it up. You had a beautiful message and you just covered it over with all of this stuff because you learned that you could, and it doesn't need to be there. Couple of messages from, what would that be? Cafe? Kafei? Tell us how you pronounce your name, Kafei. I hate to, because it's a beautiful name and I don't want to destroy it, which I've probably already done. AI isn't what we're looking for, but AC, artificial consciousness, that's when the robots acquire souls. Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. Any comments on that, guys?
I tell you, my big fear, Pete, is that when we start talking about AI and computers and the speed of processing that is there, if they can start to, we're talking about not just a linear increase in capability, but an exponential increase in capability. So we're talking about a computer now being able to determine how to improve itself and reprogram itself to do that. And so it can do that constantly, consistently, rapidly, faster than humans can do it. And so I think what we need to watch out for is that exponential increase in artificial intelligence capability. That is the only constraint that I personally would put on any of this, is that I think this can all be very, very useful, but I'm worried that we may not be able to restrict it or pull it back once it becomes more capable than us.
Yes,
Pandora's box.
Entirely. I'm not sure about this one. Long before the aliens land on the south lawn of the White House, is that a prediction? Is that a fear? The artificial consciousness which is brewing within the primordial soup of the internet will have speciated and conquered the planet. Kathy, at this time of night, you're going to have to bring that right back down to a level that we can understand just exactly what it is that you are inferring. That sounds
Hey,
Great
fascinating.
take. I love
Here's
your
the thing.
optimism.
If artificial intelligence bases its knowledge on what it finds on the internet, that is the cesspit of humanity. So its knowledge of humanity is based on the very worst that we are, not the very best that we are.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's yeah.
100%.
That's my fear. Look, if you take a tribe on this planet of people and look at what it is and think, you know what this planet needs? This planet needs exponential, to take your word, exponential growth in artificial intelligence. If given the choice, if it was I would say stop it now, and then let's get our shit together as a people, and whatever we do will then be something really, really good. At the moment, if you introduced artificial intelligence into a world which is just absolutely going mental with ripping people off by being deceitful and by lying, and it cannot possibly have a good ending. It can't. Not because it's not a great idea in itself, but you don't put that idea into a planet full of people who are in disarray and who are in chaos. You don't, because it can't end well. It's not just about the elite.
I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to shut up, Pete, because I've said way too much tonight. But there is one point that I need to make before I shut down.
Right.
The big issue that we've got here is that we have a company, OpenAI, that is responsible for ChatGPT. Internally, they have had massive ructions. They have had people on their board leave. They have had Sam Altman, who is the prime mover behind OpenAI, be fired and then brought back into the company because he misled some of the investors. One of the big concerns that we have with the foremost leading artificial intelligence company is that they are not telling the full story. They're not telling the truth. They're not letting even their own investors know about what's going on. And we have some of the principal artificial intelligence scientists leaving the company because they are scared about where this company is taking things without adequate policing and provisions in place to limit the risk of what's going on.
It's the limiters that's the issue, or the lack of.
Have they seen Handmaid's Tale by any chance?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, cafe, K-A-H.
Beautiful.
As the phonetic cafe. What a great name. That's a quote from Terence McKenna, by the way. Okay, look, awesome. It's potentially a great quote. I wish I knew who Terence McKenna was and wish I'd seen that quote before. But I'll have to go and have a look at it. Long before the aliens land on the south lawn of the White House, the artificial consciousness, which is brewing within the primordial soup of the internet, will have speciated and conquered the planet. Obviously, Terence McKenna, anyone know, guys? I think he's obviously an author.
He's all about expanding consciousness. And you know what? I reckon that's our only way forward. Our only way to beat AI is to, and I know you're going to laugh at me when I say this, is to leverage the use of psychedelics, to leverage our own consciousness, to expand our own minds to the point where we can compete or at least defend against this existential threat. The Victorian attitude that we've had to this point in time that we shouldn't experiment with psychedelics. If you're to believe in God, God put everything on this earth for the use of human beings. Let's leverage that to build our minds, to expand our consciousness, and to make sure that we are the artificial intelligence. I know that sounds like a bit of a strange thing to say, but
no, I'm not going to laugh at that at all. I've heard a lot of people talking about the use of psychedelics.
It's huge.
I can find many reasons to laugh at you. That's not one of them. I've heard I'm all for it, mate. I've heard a lot of very smart people talk about psychedelic. In fact, it took off about 7 or 8 months ago, and for big discussion, there was people coming from all around the world to discuss, and I've not heard a single solitary murmur about it since.
It's coming.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah,
And we're
yeah.
actually, Australia is on the cutting edge with.
Yeah.
With,
We've already legalized the
medicinal.
likes of ketamine, and which is a real mind expanding thing. Magic mushrooms, or the principal component of that now, is legalized
Yeah.
in the use of for psychiatric treatments, PTSD,
Yep.
all forms of. That is showing that our medical authorities are actually opening up to the idea that psychedelics, which we've used throughout history, are something that can actually advance the human race.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm old enough to remember Timothy Leary, who introduced LSD into the world, and both the negative and the positive. Most of the things that have been around for a long time, like LSD and psychedelics and magic mushroom and stuff, are all the problem with them is that they've all been coupled together and named as hippie drugs, which had no purpose whatsoever, nothing good about them. They were just
The
way
legacy of the 60s.
way to
was
get
very,
shit
very
faced,
hard.
all of this stuff. And then suddenly all these people, so many drugs around now. Like our dog Mabel has had her life probably added 2 or 3 years by using a human antidepressant drug.
Really? Wow.
Some genius turned around and said, hang on a minute, this is a drug used for antidepressants. It's no longer used anymore. We've taken it off. However, we've discovered that 50% of dogs are transformed incredibly.
Wow.
Go and get it made up somewhere at a pharmacy, to which we did. Gave it to Mabel after a week or two. She was about to, that was the end. We were basically planning her demise. She was finished. And then the next week's like, oh, hello, what's going on here?
Incredible.
What?
Yeah.
And this is like 4 months ago, and she's a different dog. I mean, she's obviously going to eventually pass away. She's 13 years, which is long for a golden retriever. But this was a drug that no one would have in a million years thought would actually be a great dog for great drug for 50% of dogs. For her,
having
changed
said
her
that,
life.
Pete, I have to. I'm sorry, but I have to relate a very quick story. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
Hang on a minute. You promised to stop talking.
I know. I'm sorry, but this one's just so important and so relevant. So one of the things as an MS sufferer, that the single most important medication I've ever been put on is medical cannabis. It's full extract cannabis. It's the real McCoy. It's the whole thing. As a result of having a great benefit, a great outcome from that, I became part of an organization called Medical Cannabis Research Australia. As a charity, we then did lectures around the world. And I gave a lecture in Manchester to a bunch of what you'd think of as very typical English doctors, round spectacles, bow ties, the whole thing. I demonstrated how beneficial medical cannabis has been for me with MS. At the end of the lecture, I had one of these professors come up to me and he said, Mr. Jordan, one of the problems that I find with cannabis is that it gives people who take it a sense of euphoria. And I looked at him and I said, I'm sorry, but it's my understanding that medicine is either meant to make you better or make you feel better. And frankly, your response is a very Victorian kind of attitude that, you know, people shouldn't be feeling good. I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, I took this medical cannabis. It not only fixed a bunch of my symptoms, but it improved my mindset. It stopped me being depressed. It made me much happier. It actually made me a genuinely nicer guy to be around. That benefited my family, my friends, my colleagues. It did so much good. Now, we're talking about what is essentially a psychedelic. And the medical fraternity looked at it as being a negative. And I'm sorry, but that is entirely the wrong approach.
Yeah.
But they'll still prescribe opiates hand over fist.
Yes. And let people drive on them.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten how to pronounce it.
Cafe.
Cafe I said, amen, Jace. Terence also said, which mushroom is at the end of history, the psychedelic mushroom, which represents peace and brotherhood, or the mushroom cloud, which represents war and death. Now, in
I
light
can
of
get
what
on board
you
with that. That's
said,
good.
that's what was so good about all of the drugs that people were taking, is that it made them escape the anxiety and the stress of life, and it was feeling of euphoria. Why would you come along, unless you're a complete Victorian twat like that guy, and go, just not euphoria? That's not.
I
That's
can
not
understand how it can
helpful.
be abused. Of
Of
course, all
course.
these things can be abused. But ultimately, under medical supervision, treated responsibly, we need to look at all of the things that we have available to us to improve
Yep.
the human condition.
100%.
Yep. Look, yeah. Look, it's been
100%.
absolutely fascinating talking about artificial intelligence, which I am a strong advocate for renaming, because it's not actually intelligence at all. It is
Agreed.
just purely plagiarism, which is, I don't say that word in a bad way. Plagiarism normally is very negative, because it's copying off people. This artificial plagiarism, as it were, is not copying. It's taking all the information we have all contributed to around the world over the last God knows how many years, so that when you ask a question, it grabs everything that's available in the world, that's ever been said, written, whatever, and puts it together and comes up with this incredible creation.
Reinterpreting and resynthesizing the available information.
Yeah, it is both beautiful and it is scary. And if we lived on a beautiful planet full of nothing but love and passivity and acceptance and creating and whatever, and introduce this, it would be amazing. What scares the crap out of me is that is not the world in which we live. It's as insane as saying, let's introduce Adolf Hitler to the world and see what happens from that, and how people will exploit the vulnerable people of the world. Rwanda, Africa, Bangladesh, the list goes on and on and on. It's just terrifying to think what could happen, because this will fall into the wrong hands, or they will stop it from falling into the wrong hands, and those wrong hands will do it anyway, like they're doing now. Security, internet security. Look what happened a couple of weekends ago about that. The guy that decided to do an upgrade and shut down the world. Good on you, mate. Well done.
God to one side, guys. God to one side. Humans are our own worst enemy.
Correct.
Of course.
We are both the most beautiful of people and the most ugly, and we've talked about this many times on this podcast. I think it's time to wrap it up, Greg, and also Cafe. Thank you so much for joining in tonight. It's been fascinating. I think we've gone somewhere. I'm going to leave you both with a question. Can you imagine in your wildest dreams a robot or an artificial intelligence with either a conscience or a soul?
No.
As a technologist, I'm afraid I have to say yes. I look at the rate of technology, the rate of the increase of complexity, we look at something like Moore's law, which basically said that a doubling of transistors in a CPU year on year on year, and that's what happened, would result in the outcomes that we now have. We have computers that are unbelievably powerful. We have a company, NVIDIA, which in June became the most valuable company on earth, simply by virtue of the fact they produce a particular type of processor that enables artificial intelligence. That is the future writ large for all of us. That's where we're heading. The money, follow the money every single time. That's where we're heading.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I think it'll look like one. I think something will come along that you that looks like it is self-aware, it is conscious, but philosophically, I don't think
Not
conscious
human.
can develop from what is already there, the ingredients.
Consciousness or not,
Um,
Luke, it's not human.
All right, let
Yeah.
me reword it for you both. Is there a time at any time in the future, and don't put a limit on whether it's 5, 10, 50, 100, 10,000 years, is there a time, remembering that time is not limited in this sense for the question, is there a time that where artificial intelligence can create the uncreatable, i.e., a computer, a robot that actually can smell, can make a decision, has a consciousness, it can be listed as a sentient being? And I know you can't know the answer to that. You can only go on a feeling of the evolution and acceleration of artificial intelligence. If we look at it going on forever, is there anything that can't be achieved comparative to what it's like to be a human being? Can
I'm
they
going to let Luke go
replicate?
first because what I'm going to say is not going to be good. But go, Luke.
That's right, mate.
I
I've got my finger on the button. I got a dump button for you, Jace. I've had it installed.
I think my answer would still stand. I think we'll see things come out of this space that we didn't envision. Yeah, certainly that I haven't envisioned. I think it's going to do far more than write acquaintance anniversary cards. Let me tell you.
Oh my
But
God.
I think we are captivated with this thing because it looks like us. It's almost narcissistic in a sense, of like that's what captivates us because it is us in a different form, and we're just like we can't take our eyes off it. But I think again, no matter what, it cannot replicate us. I don't believe that it can
Ever.
generate to the point of it
Okay.
being the equivalent of a human. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't understand what that thing is in us that makes us different, that makes us human, right? Therefore, we couldn't even code it to replicate that. But even if we did understand, and even if we could replicate it, it would still be a facsimile of us. It can only ever be. We could only ever create something that is what we know about us, which is not. It's a copy. It's not its own genuine creation. So I don't.
Ever's a very long time. It was once said by an expert that given infinity, which is what we're talking about here, there's no end to this. This is infinity. And I'm not sure I subscribe to it. Carl Pilkington certainly lost his shit over this.
Head like a fucking orange.
If you had if you had a whole bunch of chimpanzees,
monkeys
sitting at computers with infinity amount and infinity time, they would eventually be able to write all the works of Shakespeare. To me, that just seems absolute bullshit from the aspect that it's not about time and numbers to be able to create the inevitable. It's about why would they, given time, infinity, and numbers, why would they recreate?
Well,
do you know what I mean?
why
would they come
it would
with
be
the
an
thought
accident.
of Shakespeare?
It would have to be the whole idea of that thought experiment is statistically eventually, and I think it might have even been disproven, but let's say even if it was true, they're like accidentally that combination of letters would come together. But then it still means nothing unless you have someone outside of that to determine, well, there's a start of Othello and there's the end of Othello. Because the monkeys don't know. It's just data. So it actually, even if it's written in there, you need something outside of that to actually give it meaning. And I think that's the same with AI. You need to either input something into it, and that's where meaning exists, or you need to interpret the data that it spits out. and derive meaning from it. Meaning only exists in the human beings that are interacting with this thing. It doesn't exist in the computer or in the code. It can't.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's the same with that. The meaning doesn't exist in the monkeys and in the typewriters. It only exists in someone looking at what they produced and going, far out, they've done Shakespeare. It's like,
and
it's like
thankfully, Luke, it's only an argument and it's not provable. It's a concept and it's an idea, and yeah.
Oh, it's great. I love it. It's a great experiment.
Yeah.
Look,
yeah.
guys,
So come on, mate, upset everyone. Let's go.
If you're the sort of person that doesn't want to hear end of the world theories, then please leave now. I don't like to be like this, but unfortunately, this is genuinely where I feel we're going. So, if you've heard of the Fermi paradox basically says, how can we be the only creatures in existence in the entire universe? And is that just a matter of the distance that we are from other planets, other solar systems, other parts of the universe? Or is it because of the thing that we call the Great Filter? And the Great Filter is essentially a theory that says all civilizations reach a point at which they wipe themselves out. Now, we always thought historically that would be because of nuclear war, that we've reached a technological point where we have nuclear capabilities and we wipe each other out because humans are essentially beings that like to have conflict with each other, and we basically bomb each other into non-existence.
Tribal.
My theory now is that artificial intelligence may very well be the reason why we eventually end up becoming unalive, no longer in existence. And I look at the rate of the increasing well, I mean, you could say so. I mean, Skynet became aware. Funnily enough, that happened about a year ago. If you were to believe the original Terminator movie, it was about a year ago that Skynet was
2023
in existence.
That's actually a bit spooky, isn't it?
It is. A lot of the theories about what Skynet was, the consciousness that it has supposedly achieved, the fact that it then suspected that humans were the principal reason, were a cancer on the continued existence of the planet. And so it chose to wipe them out because, they were something getting in the way of progress. That is my concern. That is my genuine fear, is that we as humans, we are simply another stage in evolution. There is nothing to say that we are particularly special or that we are particularly held in some regard. If we were to look back at some of our evolutionary past, we don't look at them as being anything special. Why would it be that the creatures, that the organisms, the intelligences that come after us look back at us and think that we were anything special at a particular point in time? So we have helped create another level of our evolution. I say our because it is our continuing consciousness that will continue on. But we as a creature, as an organism, as a particular species, may not. But is that any loss? Why do we think we're so special that is a loss? If we have created now another type of intelligence that goes on to become something else, something way beyond what we ever could have been because of its capabilities, because of its ability to learn and rapidly, exponentially increase its capabilities, who are we to stand in the way of that? Should we? Could we? Can we? What is going to happen over the next 10, 20, 30 years with the exponential rate of increase in capability? Should we stand in the way of what we have created and what we could become?
How could we?
It's an
if we
question.
Wanted to, Jace. How could we get in the way?
I don't think we can.
No.
If we don't stop it now,
you can't put the
we
genie
can't.
back in the bottle.
No.
It's too late. You can't unbreak an egg.
No,
Correct.
that's right.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, guys, and I am not a fan of foul language. You know I'm not. But we're fucked.
Well, you're the only one to say that word on this podcast, so that doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, for fuck's sake. Oh, look,
Cheers to that, guys.
I concur.
Cheers
I
to
really
that.
do concur. I'm not. I mean, it's hard for me because I'm a glass half empty kind of guy anyway. And I would love. I love to see the potential in things, in people, and the potential is massive. The planet is in chaos. Hang on. Oh, we got more comments coming through. I don't encourage him. Good stuff, Jace. You guys got another subscriber. Excellent discussion. Hey,
Cheers, Cafe.
Am I saying the
Thanks,
name
Bob.
correctly? Number one, Cafe. Two, can you please tell us where you are in the world? You don't have to give anything personal away. Just love to know where you are. We're in a little place called Perth, one of the most isolated capital cities in the world in Western Australia. And we love talking to stuff, and people in other parts of the world react and comment, and it's all about you guys. We just fill in the gaps, and the more you talk, the less gaps we have, and the more we have to listen to Jason. So if you can tell us exactly, tell us where you are. Oh, I don't mind. San Antonio, Texas.
Woo!
Wow.
nice.
All right.
All right.
That's where my main man, cocaine and hookers, motherfucker. Yeah. He's not from San Antonio, but he is from Texas. Wow. So tell us about your name, your origins.
good
It
spot.
sounds to me, but I don't know any clues, guys.
I can say that I like
I can't
coffee.
hear anything. What's going on?
It does. You know what? It sounds San Antonian. You know, like Texas, San Antonio.
Really?
I feel like it's got a
A native in
Texarkana.
San Antonio?
That's
Wow,
That's what I would guess.
I've not seen that spelling inside the four walls of the United States. Anyway, good stuff.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. It's from a video game. I wouldn't put.
Oh, okay.
Let's show this.
Oh, Zelda. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
From the Legend of
Hey,
Zelda.
Jimmy.
But you're okay. You're way too young for me to understand what it is.
Zelda's
I'm
old
an
school.
IT guy, and I've never installed a game in my life, so I have no idea what he's talking about.
Mate, you're missing
You
out.
said
You haven't
he.
lived.
Is it a
Jimmy?
guy? Is it a male?
Well, coffee says my name is Jimmy.
Hey?
The latest comment says my real name is Jimmy,
sorry,
by
my
the way.
real name is Jimmy. By the way. So okay. So that's cool. Jimmy from San Antonio. Well, boy howdy, man. I love that part of the USA, motherfucker.
We just lost that subscriber. We just gained a subscriber and lost it in the space of about 30 seconds.
That's it.
Good word, Jimmy.
Hey, Jimmy. G'day.
Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. Thanks to your other name, which of course is Cafe, and Greg. Shall we wrap it up, guys? Oh my God, it's 10:30.
Good Lord.
It's been interesting. I'm not sure we have achieved anything other than all mutually agreeing that it's kind of an unknown, a scary
as shit. That's what it is.
Well, look, it is. And it's as students, we can only sit back and watch. You're the only one out of three of us, Jace, who's actually involved in encouraging the world to doom and just devastation.
Encouraging the world.
I have 4 children, and I'm worried for their future, genuinely.
Yeah. Look, same. I mean, it's easy for me to go, well, I don't care, because it's not going to be any in my lifetime where the world is going to change dramatically. But for my kids and my grandchildren, I mean, it's of deep concern, especially if you see what's going on at the moment in Israel, Palestinian, with the assassination today. In the American politics, I mean, my God, it's just
But with some
nothing
good
ever
news,
changes. Nothing ever
I'll give you a
changes in
tip.
this world.
So I used to live in Perth, which is the most remote capital city on earth, right?
Not the most.
I decided it was a dangerous place to be, and I didn't want to be hanging around people anymore because people are dangerous.
Thanks a lot, because that's where we live. Good on you.
So I decided I was going to move to the arse end of the world. So not only did I move to Albany, which is like 400 kilometers away from Perth, I then decided that's not far enough away. So currently, as I speak to you right now, I am 40 minutes northeast of Albany. So I am literally in the arse end of the arse end of the arse end of the world. This is the safest place to be, Pete. If no matter what happens, we are geographically stable, we are geologically stable, we are politically stable, and if there is a nuclear strike on somewhere like Garden Island, I'm far enough away that it won't affect me. I have a firearm, I have a big family, and I have a fence around my compound. I'm safe. If you guys need to run away, come and join me. This is the place to be.
sounds like a good bunker invitation. Do you know what? I will end on a positive. Do you know what AI can't do?
Go on.
Simone Biles.
Oh,
what she's
you're
doing.
right.
Who's
Wow.
Simone Biles?
Oh, Rowie. Mate. Greatest gymnast in history. American.
Phenomenal.
Oh,
The Olympics.
I'm
But
sorry.
Rowan,
I'm
you know
sorry.
the Olympics are on?
It's one of those. I'm one of those weirdos that's
Right.
actually focused on the Australian people, not American. So
Me too. But when you get these generational greatest of all time, and you're just like, it doesn't matter. It's a humanity thing. It doesn't matter what country they're from. You go, I need to witness this.
I know.
That's
And look,
what she's like. It's
I don't even like
ridiculous.
sport, and I know.
AI cannot do that.
I've followed Olympics all my life. I'm a and was an elite runner,
You are.
hop, step, and jump, high jump, all of that stuff. I was right up there, mate, right up there. So I've watched it all my life. I have been watching. It's so hard to get stuff live. I've been watching Foxy
It's
on
hard
the
with the time difference.
a little paddle. What do they call it? Watching I watched the basketball last night. I've watched the sevens rugby. I'm loving it. I'm watching. I have not heard of this gymnast that I feel ignorant. That's terrible. What has she done?
She's literally the most decorated gymnast in history. She's won like 7 gold medals.
Why have I missed that? How have I missed that?
But Nadia Comaneci was the
She
real
was
original pro.
She was the first of 10 out of 10 ever. She scored
Mate.
the perfect 10 from Russia. Nadia Comaneci.
She's this, yeah. You got to Google Simone Biles. It's ridiculous.
What's her name?
Simone Biles.
Simone
Biles.
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 Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Phenomenal.
I haven't.
And Luke, that reminds me, at some point, mate, we got to get together for a beer.
Oh, mate, absolutely.
Well,
we really do.
We're going to do the atheist believer in a pastor walk into a bar at some stage.
Walk into a bunker.
Doesn't get hit by lightning. He can't physically hang out with us.
Can we remind you after your
proof.
sermon about where you lived, how difficult that's going to be?
That's true. Although I'm in Perth tomorrow, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
I'm coming up for an MRI. I'm going to have my head examined, like Pete keeps telling me I should.
Well, geez, they could have saved all that money and just asked me what I thought. One last final message I think might be coming our way from Cafe. you guys, if you're interested furthering your interest in a topic like this, I recommend a talk by Terence McKenna. That was the guy who she quoted, which he labeled Psychedelics in the Age of Intelligent Machines. Bookmark it, please. Will do.
Yeah, I'll
Will
check
do.
that out. That sounds
Jimmy,
awesome.
thank you. Yeah, fabulous. Okay, that's interesting. We'd love to get recommendations from anywhere, even from people in San Antonio, Texas. I mean, we're not fussy.
Especially.
We are biased and prejudiced to a degree, but not to that extent.
It's like, Jimmy, I like you. I don't like your governor.
Yeah, well, Jimmy probably doesn't like governor either. But I think
Then again, I'm in Australia. What do I care?
Correct. Well, you live you live in a bubble, which I'm very jealous of. And if we come a knocking,
and we do down here, we're surrounded by, you can't really see it, we're surrounded by wineries. So come on down. Can look after you.
We're surrounded by wineries either. It's called Liquor.
Hey!
All right.
I like it.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, guys. Been fabulous. Thank you so much for your wonderful input. Thanks to Jimmy, aka Cafal, Greg as well, and Cafe. Sorry, I'm shocking with names. Really interesting. Hopefully, we catch up with Rich and Suresh next week with another, either an interesting subject or an interesting guest. I've got a few on the boil. I need more because people keep dropping off for various reasons. But really keen to get some women on the show. So
don't be so sexist.
Sorry?
Don't be so sexist.
Why the hell not?
I think it's a great idea. We need to balance it out.
We've had enough of the men, and they've let me down terribly, so we need some women involved. So, Luke, do you want to explain what you're doing there, mate?
I just accidentally kicked my power adapter out, and everything just went really dim. I was just re-plugging it back in.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Luke. Great to have you back, mate. Haven't seen you for a little while. You're looking well.
Thanks, gents. Yep, feeling good. And
good?
it's still a bit crook. Tail end of it. Can't shake this cough.
Really?
But
that's what happens when you got a house full of kids, mate. They bring in all the stuff for you.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
no
one told me any of this. Wasn't in the pamphlet.
They don't say anything about it.
Same, but it's
ridiculous.
It is awful. It is the ultimate escapologist. Jace, thanks, mate, for having you on tonight.
Can I just say in closing, thank you very much, Pete. Thank you, Luke. I've just had my 8th COVID booster, and apart from the smell, I don't think I'm dead.
Right, 8.
Nice.
8.
Geez, yeah, I mean, it's obviously more relevant to yourself than other people. I've had 5. Yeah.
5?
Yeah. I had 5. Haven't had my latest flu jab, which I'm regretting because I really should have. The flu.
I'm just still concerned about the fact that people who are anti-vaxxers are saying that I should be dead by now, but I'm clearly not, and I'm quite happy. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I can see that in a court of law. I think you'd be able to prove that you are very much alive and well at the moment. So, thanks to everyone that tuned in tonight on YouTube. Please don't forget to jump onto Facebook and put in our wonderful title to this amazing podcast, which is An Atheist, a Believer, and a Pastor Walk into a Bar, to which we will recreate soon. We should film it. Us going into.
We can do that.
We don't have a pastor anymore. We only have a lay pastor, dude.
You're not a pastor. I thought you were a pastor.
He is, but he's not working.
False advertising. Luke, you.
I'm just not currently employed as a pastor. That's the difference. But I'm still.
I just hurt my finger. Look at that.
Oh, goodness me.
That hurt. Anyway,
I consider myself a pastafarian.
Anyway, look, we'll talk more about this. We'll talk more about this when we actually sign off. So thanks to everyone. Of course, we finish up July tonight, which is amazing, and kick off with August. Next Wednesday will be. Oh, why won't this work? It does. What's the Oh, well, it'll be obviously the 7th, Pete. That's great maths, mate. 7th of August. Back with us on Wednesday night from 8:00. Thank you so much for everyone joining in. Have a great time between now and next Wednesday, and we'll talk to you then. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Been a pleasure. Hooroo.
Jesus. Okay, I hit that.